Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be diving in.
Today we're tackling a big one. A legend, really. Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov.
Yes.
The Mountain. Exactly. That huge, 2,000-page book that kind of stares at you from the shelf. Maybe you've tried it. Felt a bit, intimidated. Or even just gave up.
A lot of people do. It's demanding, no doubt about it.
But stick with us, because we're about to unpack some things that might just blow your mind about this book.
Yeah, Nobel laureate Orhan Pamuk called it that high mountain, right? A word-based novel.
He did. Said it prioritizes ideas, knowledge, over maybe flashy descriptions. Makes you work for it.
You definitely have to engage, climb that mountain, so to speak. But the payoff? Huge.
Okay, so here's the first, total bombshell. I found this just incredible. This massive book, right? Feels totally complete, epic, the whole deal. Turns out it was meant to be just the prologue.
Wow, just the prologue.
Yeah. Can you believe it? Dostoevsky planned this enormous 3-part saga. But then, well, he passed away just 3 months after publishing the Karamazov we know.
Oh, man. So the rest just vanished. Unwritten.
Exactly. Leaving that whole grand vision unfinished. It's kind of heartbreaking, really.
It really puts a different spin on it being his final work, doesn't it? Knowing there's supposed to be so much more.
And if that doesn't make you rethink things, wait till you hear this next one. About Alexei.
Alyosha.
Okay, the good brother, the saintly one.
Right. In the book, he's like pure goodness, a monk in training, total faith, loves everyone. He's the archetype, you know.
The moral compass, for sure.
But get this. Dostoevsky's original plan, for part he never got to write, Alexei was supposed to become a revolutionary.
A revolutionary.
Alexei.
Not just that. He was apparently going to assassinate the emperor and then be executed for it.
Whoa. Okay, that's a complete 180. From saint to assassin.
Totally U-turn. It just completely flips how you see him in the part we do have.
It really does. It says so much about Dostoevsky's view of people, doesn't it? How even the purest soul could maybe be pushed to extremes by society or ideology or something, makes you question everything about fixed character.
Definitely. So, look, our mission today, we want to give you a shortcut, cut through that intimidating feeling.
Get straight to the good stuff.
Yeah, uncover the hidden bits, the surprising facts inside this giant work. We're going to show you why this story, which can feel like a crazy family soap opera,
it definitely has its moments,
is actually seen as this profound masterpiece.
Yeah.
It goes way deeper than you might think. Ready to unpack it.
Let's do it.
Okay, part 1. The beginning of all the chaos. The Karamazov family. We're in this provincial Russian town, and this family is, well, let's just say dysfunctional, is putting it mildly. At the center, the father, Fyodor Karamazov.
And Fyodor, he's fascinating because he's not just the dull clown or the obvious scoundrel he seems at first.
How so?
Well, the deep dive shows he was actually pretty clever and cunning. He would put on these performances, these theatrical displays.
Performances, like what?
Even when it was totally against his own best interests. He'd do it just to shock people, just for the reaction. Imagine that.
Wow. So self-sabotage for attention. That's complex.
Very. And you see that contradiction so clearly, like when his first wife died.
Right, I remember reading that.
The text says he was simultaneously rejoicing in his liberation and grieving for the wife who had liberated him. Both things at once.
That's wild. What does that even mean about him? Or us?
Well, Dostoevsky calls Fyodor the common father of our time. It's like he's saying all of it. The good, the bad, the desire, the reason, the total mess. It all starts there. It's all inside us, maybe originating from that kind of primal source.
The messy source of humanity. Okay, so then you have the sons. And they're not just simple archetypes either, are they? Let's start with Dmitri, the oldest.
Right, Dmitri, Mitya, the passionate one, ex-military guy, loves a drink, loves gambling, got that explosive temper, seems like a total wreck, basically.
A profligate, yeah, lost to his passions.
But, and this is a huge but, underneath all that, there's this incredibly pure and good-natured core.
Really? How does that show up?
Okay, get this example. It's maybe the most striking one. He once gave away nearly his entire fortune.
His whole fortune. Dmitri. The gambler.
Yeah, like 5,000 rubles, which today would be, what, over $60,000? Maybe more.
Whoa. Ooh.
To his fiancée Katerina's family, no strings attached, just gave it to them, purely to save them from, total financial ruin and public disgrace.
That completely changes things. An act of pure generosity From the guy known as the wild spendthrift.
Exactly. It totally clashes with his whole reputation. Shows you can't just label these characters.
Definitely not. Okay, so Dmitri's got hidden depths. What about Ivan, the second son?
Ivan, the intellectual. Super educated, kind of cold, very calculating, an atheist.
He's the one with the famous line, right? God does not exist, therefore all is permitted.
That's him. He represents that European reason, logic, rationality. He's the challenger.
Sets up a lot of the big philosophical clashes in the book.
Absolutely. Huge tension between him and the others, especially Alexei.
Right. Let's talk Alexei. Alyosha, the youngest. Dostoevsky basically designed him as the archetype of a good person.
Yeah, the devout one, training to be a monk, full of faith, universal love, a real contrast to the rest of the family.
Almost saintly. But where does that purity come from, especially in that family? Is there a reason given?
There is, and it's actually really touching and maybe not something everyone picks up on.
Okay.
His goodness, his difference is traced back to this faint yet vivid memory, just a single memory from when he was maybe 4 years old.
Just 4? What was it?
It was his mother holding him, praying really intensely to the Virgin Mary. That image, that feeling. Dostoevsky suggests those kinds of beautiful and sacred childhood memories are like the best education, a saving power that stays with you your whole life.
Wow, that's a beautiful idea. That one core memory could shape a whole person like that. Makes you think, what memories are shaping you.
Exactly. It's a powerful psychological insight.
Okay, one more brother, sort of. Smerdyakov.
Smerdyakov. Fyodor's presumed illegitimate son. And, spoiler alert.
Yeah, the actual murderer.
Right. But he's not just some lackey who listened to Ivan's philosophy. He's presented as something darker, like pure inherent evil almost.
How so? Is it just the murder?
No, it's his background. The details are chilling. As a kid, he apparently used to hang cats.
Hang cats.
And then hold little funerals for them. And even worse, he'd get other kids to feed dogs pieces of bread with needles hidden inside.
Oh my God. That's deeply disturbing.
Right. It shows this innate cruelty. It's not just about ideas he picked up. It's something rooted deep inside him from the start. Truly unsettling.
So you've got this absolute pressure cooker of a family. Clever but cruel father, passionate son with a hidden heart, rationalist son questioning everything, saintly son, and Smerdyakov.
Yeah. The stage is definitely set, and that initial meeting they have at the monastery with Elder Zosima.
Where Fyodor just acts completely outrageously.
Exactly. It just lays bare all the dysfunction right away. You just know something terrible is coming. You feel that tension building.
Okay, let's move into that darkness then. Part 2. Crime, conscience, and some really mind-bending paradoxes.
Yeah, this is where it gets intense.
So soon after that meeting, Fyodor turns up murdered. And all the clues, all the circumstantial stuff.
It all points to Dmitri. He had the motive, that love triangle over Grushenka. He had the temper. He made threats.
Looks like an open and shut case.
Right.
But the real psychological drama is with Ivan, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because Smerdyakov confesses to Ivan.
Right. And what does he say?
He basically says, I did it because of you, because you said all is permitted. He throws Ivan's philosophy right back at him.
Whoa. So he pins the philosophical blame on Ivan.
Exactly. Now, Ivan didn't tell him to do it, not directly, but there's this idea that Ivan, deep down, subconsciously wanted his father dead.
The mind-born guilt you mentioned earlier.
Precisely, and this guilt just consumes him. It leads to this agonizing delirium where he starts hallucinating. He literally argues with the devil.
Hallucinating the devil because he thought about wanting his father dead. That's intense.
It's incredible. Dostoevsky's pushing this idea that maybe just wishing for evil, desiring it in your heart, makes you culpable in some way, morally, if not legally.
A moral standard way beyond just, don't break the law.
Far beyond it. It forces you to examine your own inner world, your intentions, your hidden desires. Are our thoughts as real as our actions in a moral sense?
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, another really strange, paradoxical thing happens around this time. The death of Elder Zosima.
Right. Alexei's mentor. Everyone sees him as this living saint.
So when he dies, people expect a miracle. His body not decaying.
Exactly. They expected signs of holiness. Incorruptibility was a common sign associated with saints.
But that's not what happens, is it?
Not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. His body starts to decompose faster than usual. And the smell, it's apparently worse than anyone expected, caused a huge scandal.
Faster. And smellier. That's shocking for a supposed saint. What's Dostoevsky saying with that?
It's powerful. He's basically saying true holiness True salvation isn't about outward signs or miracles or physical perfection.
It's not about the body staying fresh.
No, it's about the inner life, inner transformation, and crucially about practical, active love lived out in the real world among messy people, not just holiness sealed off in a monastery.
So true grace is found in action, not in preservation.
That seems to be the message, a rejection of superficial signs, demanding something deeper.
And Zosima himself wasn't always this serene elder, right? There's a backstory.
Oh yeah, another surprising layer. He was actually a military officer in his youth.
A soldier. Zosima.
Yep.
And he had this radical conversion experience literally moments before he was about to fight a duel. He just threw his pistol away instead of firing.
Wow. What a turnaround.
It really grounds him, doesn't it? Shows that even the most revered spiritual figures often come from complicated pasts. They've wrestled with things, makes their wisdom feel earned.
Definitely adds depth. Okay, we have to talk about Ivan's poem, The Grand Inquisitor.
Ah, yes. Not really a poem, more like a parable or a philosophical diatribe, one of the most famous bits in all of literature.
So set the scene for us. What happens in this story Ivan tells?
Okay, so Ivan imagines Jesus returning to Earth, specifically to 15th century Seville, Spain, during the height of the Inquisition.
Jesus just shows up again.
Yeah. And he starts performing miracles. People recognize him, but then he gets arrested by the Grand Inquisitor himself.
Arrested. Jesus gets arrested by the church.
Exactly. And the Inquisitor visits him in his cell and gives this furious speech. He basically accuses Jesus of messing everything up by giving humanity freedom.
Too much freedom. The Inquisitor argues that most people don't want freedom. It's too hard, too burdensome. What they really crave is bread, miracles, and authority. Security. Someone to tell them what to do.
They want comfort, not choice.
That's the argument. He says the church has corrected Jesus's work by taking away that freedom and giving people security instead. It's a chilling defense of authoritarianism, basically.
And how does Jesus respond to this epic takedown?
This is the most incredible part. Jesus says, absolutely nothing. Complete silence throughout the whole tirade.
Silence.
Just silence. And then at the very end, he quietly walks up to the old, bitter Inquisitor and kisses him gently on his lips.
He kisses him after all that.
Yes. It's this profound, wordless act of love and forgiveness. It completely transcends the Inquisitor's logic and arguments. But the Inquisitor is shaken, but he doesn't change his mind. He tells Jesus to leave and never come back. The kiss moves him, but his ideology is too entrenched.
Wow. Silence and a kiss is the ultimate response to power and logic. That stays with you. The struggle between freedom and wanting to be taken care of.
It's timeless. Still echoes today, that tension.
Okay, let's head into the final part. Part 3. Grains of hope, love, sacrifice, and maybe some new beginnings.
Or at least the potential for them.
We've got Dmitri's trial. It's pure courtroom drama.
Absolutely. Ivan tries to testify, tries to confess his own guilt, maybe implicates Smerdyakov.
But he's delirious by this point, right?
Yeah.
Raving about the devil.
Exactly. So his testimony is dismissed as just the ravings of a madman. Doesn't help Dmitri at all.
And Dmitri himself pleads innocence, but then Katerina, his fiancée.
Yeah. Katerina publicly reveals this drunken letter Dmitri wrote earlier where he threatened Fyodor, saying something like, "I will kill my father."
Oof. That seals it, doesn't it?
Pretty much. Despite the lack of hard evidence connecting him directly to the murder weapon or the money, the letter, his reputation, the motive, it's enough. He's found guilty.
Unjustly convicted and sentenced to 20 years hard labor in Siberia.
A brutal sentence. And it leads to one of Dostoevsky's most striking ideas we touched on earlier, his definition of hell.
Right, not fire and brimstone.
No. He defines hell as the absence of love, a state of being, really. A place filled with the constant desire to judge and blame others.
So if everyone's just condemning everyone else.
That state of mind is hell. Right here, right now. Not some future place necessarily.
That is incredibly relevant.
Yeah.
It really makes you stop and think about online culture, polarization, how quick we are to judge. Are we creating little hells?
It's a profound and uncomfortable question he poses. And related to that is the parable of the onion root.
Ah, tell us about that one.
Okay, so there's this wicked old woman in hell. She's apparently done nothing good her whole life except for one tiny thing. She once gave an onion, just an onion stalk, to a beggar.
One onion. That's her ticket.
Potentially. Her guardian angel uses that single onion root to try and pull her out of the lake of fire. But as she's being pulled up, other sinners in hell see it and start grabbing onto her legs, hoping to escape too.
Okay, a chance for everyone.
You'd think. But the old woman gets furious. She starts kicking them off, shouting, "It's my onion, not yours." Selfish, even in that moment.
Oh, no.
And because she kicks them away, clinging only to herself, the onion root breaks, and she falls back into hell, losing her only chance.
Wow. So even the smallest good deed offers hope, but selfishness can ruin even that.
Exactly. Grace is offered, but clinging to self, refusing to share even salvation, severs the connection. It's brutal.
It really is. This focus on small acts, though,
Yes.
it connects to his idea of practical love, right?
Yes, very strongly. He contrasts this practical, everyday love with abstract love for humanity.
What's wrong with loving humanity?
Dostoevsky, or rather his characters like Zosima, point out that loving humanity in the abstract is easy, but often the more you love humanity in general,
The less you love actual individual people nearby.
precisely. He says true love is concrete. It's persistent effort towards the people right in front of you, especially when it's difficult, when they annoy you, when it feels like a struggle. That's the real work.
That makes sense. It's easier to love an idea than a flawed person.
And he shows the impact of small love, too. Remember Dmitri's act of generosity?
The 5,000 rubles.
Yeah. Well, there's another, even smaller example. A pound of walnuts Dmitri apparently gave to a doctor when he was a kid. Just a small kindness.
A pound of walnuts.
Yeah. And decades later, during the trial, this doctor remembers it. And it subtly influences the jury, softening his image just a tiny bit, despite his terrible reputation.
Wow. So those little things, they ripple outwards. They matter.
They really do. Which brings us back to that opening quote, the core theme, maybe, John 12:34.
Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds.
Exactly. Sacrifice leads to new life, new growth.
So who is the grain of wheat in the novel? Is it one person?
That's the beautiful part. It's not just one. It's like a chain reaction of influence, of sacrifice, and inspiration.
Okay, walk us through that chain.
Well, first, you could say it's the young boy, Alyosha. He's brave but sickly, and his death deeply affects his school friends.
Right, the group of boys Alexei interacts with.
Yes. And at Alyosha's funeral, Alexei gives this powerful speech, urging the boys to remember Alyosha, to remember this moment of connection, and to stay together forever like this, hand in hand, for life. Alyosha's death brings them together and inspires future goodness through memory.
So Alyosha's death bears fruit in the other boys' lives, guided by Alexei.
Exactly. And then, of course, it's Elder Zosima. His death, while scandalous on the surface, leads to his teachings spreading. His wisdom.
Like seek happiness in suffering.
Yes, and work ceaselessly in the world, not just hiding away. These ideas profoundly shape Alexei. Zosima's life and teachings die, but produce fruit in Alexei.
Okay, so Alyosha influences the boys, Zosima influences Alexei.
And then it's Alexei himself. He takes Zosima's wisdom and actively applies it. He guides those children, becoming the living link, carrying that hope, that seed, into the next generation.
So it's a ripple effect. Sacrifice,
Yeah.
memory, love, passed down.
Beautifully put. It shows how small acts, individual lives and deaths, can spread out and bear fruit far beyond what you might expect. It's Dostoevsky's ray of hope, maybe, found even after exploring so much darkness. He found it despite his own incredibly hard life.
Poverty, exile, illness. Yet he lands on this idea of hope spreading through connection.
It's quite moving, and that chaotic energy of the family, that mix of darkness and potential light. Scholars even give it a name, right?
Oh, yeah. What's it called?
Karamazov Shaina.
Karamazov Shaina.
Yeah. It describes that specific, contradictory, tumultuous spirit of the Karamazovs. It symbolized Russia in the 19th century, for sure. But it also taps into this universal human chaos that, well, it still feels incredibly relevant today, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That internal battlefield feels very modern. And thinking back to Orhan Pamuk calling Dostoevsky word-based.
Right, focusing on knowledge and ideas over maybe easy visualization.
It explains why it feels like such an intellectual climb, but also why the ideas are so powerful and stick with you.
You earn the insights, definitely. It demands that active engagement we talked about.
And one last little fun fact before we wrap up. You ever notice the title is sometimes translated differently?
Oh, like the Brothers Karamazov versus the Karamazov family.
Exactly. Apparently that comes from this old debate among translators about the Russian word. Does it mean just the literal brothers or the whole family line, the gentry, the house of Karamazov?
Huh, never knew that.
And apparently Japanese translations might even influence some of the English choices way back when. Just shows how layered even the title is.
Wow, layers upon layers.
So, wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
what's the takeaway for you listening right now? Hopefully this deep dive showed you the Brothers Karamazov is way more than just a long, complicated family drama.
It's this huge, profound journey into, well, everything. Human nature, guilt, faith, doubt, redemption, the real meaning of love.
It's massive, and its influence is undeniable. Right, like in psychology.
Oh, hugely. Freud himself was fascinated by it, wrote about the patricide theme, the intricate psychology, and countless writers and thinkers since have wrestled with it, been inspired by it. It's a cornerstone.
It really challenges you to look at yourself, doesn't it? Which leaves us to our final thought for you. Think about Alexei's core memory. What sacred childhood memories, maybe faint but vivid, might be shaping your life right now, quietly guiding you?
And maybe think about Zosima's practical love, or Dmitri's walnuts, or Alyosha's legacy.
Yeah. How could you be a grain of wheat in your own world, maybe through those small, persistent acts of real, practical love for the people around you? How could you create a ripple of hope?
Deep questions, the kind Dostoevsky forces you to ask. The answers aren't simple, but wrestling with them, that's where the value lies.
Definitely something to mull over. Join us next time as we keep digging into more profound stories and surprising insights right here on The Deep Dive.